Hah? Bisa mulai? Okay, good afternoon, distinguished speakers and delegates. Welcome to the regional webinar on reducing marine plastic pollution during the COVID-19 pandemics in ASEAN countries, organized by Center for Southeast Asian Studies and the Norwegian Institute of Water Research in consultation with ASEAN Secretariat as part of ASEAN-Norwegian Cooperation Project on Local Capacity Building for Reducing Plastic Pollution in the ASEAN region, or we call it ASEANO. The aim of this webinar to enhance awareness of marine plastic pollution in the context of COVID-19 pandemic in ASEAN member states. The second is provide mutual learning space to exchange experience, discuss shared solution to identify problem, anticipate future development to reduce marine plastic pollution in ASEAN member states, and then discuss the ways to strengthen the effort reducing marine pollution in the ASEAN. The expected output of this webinar is updated information and knowledge on current plastic pollution in the region and possible solution on the areas, initiative, modalities to address challenge of marine pollution faced by ASEAN member states during COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to inform you that the participants of this webinar include a representative from the ASEAN Working Group on Coastal and Marine Environment. The second is ASEAN Working Group on Environmentally Sustainable Cities. And the third one is ASEAN Working Group on Chemical and Waste. ASEAN Secretariat, of course, and also partners from various backgrounds. My name is Arisman from the Center for South Asian Studies. Will be a moderator for webinar today. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please be informed our webinar ground rules today. Can you share the screen, Mr. Nabil? Yeah, the second screen. Next one. Okay. Yeah, all the participants are advised to change their username into the following format: country or organization and name. And then this webinar also live streaming in YouTube. All the Q&A, question and answer, will be only done through the Zoom and YouTube chat box. And the moderator, I will select the most relevant question to be answered. Let's start with, thank you, Nabil. I would like to invite Ambassador Norway to ASEAN, His Excellency Ambassador Morten Hogland. Please welcome, Excellency. The time is yours for your keynote remarks. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Arisman. And first, Deputy Secretary General Kung Fook, ladies and gentlemen, Norway is proud to partner with ASEAN in combating marine littering for cleaner oceans and waterways. The ASEANO project is one of the flagship projects of the ASEAN-Norway partnership. This month, we are having actually our 5-year anniversary as a sectoral dialogue partner of ASEAN. So this webinar, we consider as part of our anniversary celebrations, even if this was not consulted with the organizer. Single-use plastic is one of the greatest threats to the environment. Approximately 300 million tons of plastic is produced worldwide every year, with more than 8 million entering oceans annually, ultimately threatening the ecosystems of marine wildlife. The COVID-19 pandemic threatens to further increase the amount of plastic pollution. Naturally, the priority over the past few months have been mitigating the contagion of the virus, which includes the implementation of collaborative protective measures. Essential components to controlling the spread include the face masks and the frequent disinfection of hands. And although these two measures alone cannot stop the pandemic, they play an important role in preventing infection and are therefore vital to controlling and eliminating COVID-19. Both face masks, at least quite a lot of face masks, and hand sanitizers production include the use of plastic. Plastic has a lifespan of approximately 450 years and never fully degrades, but rather shrinks into microplastics. Widely circulated images of plastic sacks of medical waste piling up outside hospitals and used personal protective equipment floating in coastal waters and washing up on the world beaches illustrate yet again the dark side of single-use plastics. If we are not careful, short-term thinking during the pandemic could lead to an even larger environmental and public health calamity in the future. The COVID-19 crisis threatens to stall and even reverse progress that was gained before the pandemic. It will take time to learn precisely how much additional plastic waste has been generated during the crisis. Preliminary data are staggering. In China, the Ministry of Ecology and Environment estimates that hospitals in Wuhan produced more than 240 tons of waste daily at the height of the outbreak, compared with 40 tons during normal times. A similar uptick in waste can be seen among ordinary citizens in China. Daily production of face masks soared to 116 million in February, 12 times higher than the previous month. Hundreds of tons of discarded masks were being collected daily from public bins alone. There is no telling how many more were being discarded in household waste systems. According to the Thailand Environment Institute, plastic waste has increased from 1,500 tons to 6,300 tons per day, and that's because of home deliveries of food. Significant amount of personal protective equipment, PPE, are being littered. In addition to being an environmental hazard, the littering of PPE poses a contamination risk to others. And many that would typically collect litter when encountering are no longer doing so to avoid the risk of coming into contact with contaminated PPE. Compounding the problem, many waste management services have not been operating at full capacity owing to social distancing rules and stay-at-home orders. In the United Kingdom, so-called fly tipping, illegal waste disposal, has risen by 300% during the pandemic. In some countries, companies that are advancing innovative methods of recycling and reusing waste plastics are reporting reduced amounts of plastic coming through waste streams, suggesting that a growing volume of plastic is ending up in landfills or leaking into the environment. During the COVID-19 crisis, it is essential to protect the vulnerable, ensure that health workers have the tools and support they need to do their job safely, prevent healthcare systems from becoming overwhelmed, and avoid additional waves of infection. But in meeting these imperatives, we cannot lose sight of the other long-term challenges facing humanity, including the environmental and public health risks generated by excessive plastic waste. And some of the patterns we observe with COVID-19 are not novel, and they rather mirror a similar trend observed in previous outbreaks, such as the swine flu virus. As a silver lining, many experts believe the environmental emphasis on plastic pollution will return to the limelight once the COVID-19 crisis is under control. So governments must recognize the crucial role of waste management services and their workers in the transition to a sustainable future and allocate COVID-19 spending accordingly. This would advance multiple sustainable development goals, including SDG 11, which called for cities to ensure effective waste management, SDG 12, reduce waste generation through prevention, reduction, recycling, and reuse, and SDG 14, reduce marine pollution of all kinds. So as the global economy restarts, we should invest in building effective waste management systems beyond helping to keep plastic waste out of our oceans. Such systems can provide decent jobs and improve livelihoods, resulting in stronger, more sustainable economies in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Morten. Now, I would like to invite Deputy Secretary General of ASEAN for Socio-Cultural Community, His Excellency Kung Pok, for delivering his keynote remarks. Please welcome, Excellency. The time is yours.
Ambassador Morten Hoglund, Ambassador of Norway to ASEAN, Ambassador Herani Tichuddin, Permanent Representative of Brunei Darussalam to ASEAN, Permanent Mission of Brunei, Dr. Supawat, Department of Marine and Coastal Resources, Thailand, representative, the chair of the ASEAN Working Group on Coastal and Marine Environment, Mr. Torbjørn Larsen, Executive Director of the Norwegian Institute for Water Research, Mr. Rishman, Executive Director of the Center for Southeast Asian Studies, delegate from ASEAN member state and dialogue partners. It is an honor to welcome you to today, the regional webinar on reducing marine plastic pollution during the COVID-19 pandemic in ASEAN countries, which was organized under the ASEAN-Norway Cooperation Project on Local Capacity Building for Reducing Plastic Pollution in ASEAN Region, or ASEANO in brief. I wish to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Government of Norway for the strong support to ASEAN efforts in combating marine plastic debris through the project. My appreciation also goes to the Center for Southeast Asian Studies for co-organizing these events. As of 17, I hope you are all staying well and safe amid the COVID-19 global pandemic. As of 17 August 2020, WHO data shows global confirmed cases of 21,549,706 confirmed cases, including 158 deaths. In the ASEAN region, approximately 350,053 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and a total of 8,633 deaths were reported as of 14 August 2020. Governments all over the world are putting in place different measures to provide timely medical treatment and to curb the spread of the virus. The outbreak of COVID-19 and the measure to control it undeniably have profound impacts not only on public health and economic sectors, but also on the environment, especially in relation to plastic waste. With the COVID-19 pandemic, the existing threat of plastic waste to the environment and human health are now compounded by massive residue reuse from the implementation of safety and protective measures. Health workers and other frontliners with protective equipment are essential in to fight the spread of COVID-19. Masks, gloves, protective suit, face shield, sanitizer bottles, and other medical and chemical waste now add to the mounds of trash. A recent Asian Development Bank report estimated that over a period of 60 days during the pandemic, 5 cities in Southeast Asia could collectively reuse about 60,000 of medical waste. As people stay in the safety of their homes, they are reliant on online deliveries, and packaged goods have also surged. A survey conducted by the Indonesian Institute of Sciences showed a 62% increase in online shopping and 47% rise in food delivery during the large-scale social restriction schemes in Greater Jakarta. In Singapore, an additional 1,334 tons of plastic waste was generated from food delivery and takeaways during the 2-month circuit breakers period. According to a study conducted by a group of environmental management alumni of the National University of Singapore. The same trend have been detected in other cities and countries across the region. Poor waste disposal and leakages also leads to marine plastic debris pollution and is exacerbated in areas where services may not be operating at optimal level. Harmful medical and chemical waste also put scavengers, workers, and sanitary and recycling facilities at even greater risk. Post-COVID-19 plastic pollution could become an urgent environmental disaster. With the new normal of rising plastic use brought about by the pandemic, there needs to be an immediate response and transformative shift in plastic consumption patterns. However, the issues associated with the life cycle of plastic are complex. They need to be addressed with coordinated actions at multiple levels and at all stages of the life cycles of plastics. It is for this reason that this webinar is organized. It is expected that the webinar can provide a mutual learning space for ASEAN member states, partners, and various stakeholders to exchange experience, identify shared solutions, and discuss ways to strengthen coordinated action in reducing marine plastic pollution in ASEAN. Addressing the issue of plastic waste and marine plastic debris is high on ASEAN agenda. You may have noted that ASEAN has adopted the Bangkok Declarations on Combating Marine Debris in ASEAN region and the ASEAN Framework of Actions on Marine Debris in 2019 under Thailand chairmanship. ASEAN is developing a regional plan of action on combating marine debris to operationalize the declarations and the framework of action. With our partner, ASEAN has adopted the ASEAN +3 Marine Plastic Debris Cooperation Action Initiative and joined the East Asian Summit countries in implementing the EAS leader statement on combating marine plastic debris last year. An ASEAN-EU study on circular economy focusing on plastic in ASEAN was also conducted to provide a regional baseline data on the status and gaps in plastic value chain in the region. ASEANO project was launched last year to support local capacity building and reducing marine plastic pollutions. A regional capacity center for clean sea was recently established in Bali under Indonesia initiative in cooperation with UNEP. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while the demand trend for plastic supplies is expected to elevate to the pandemic necessity for the sake of flattening the curve and saving life, the pandemic should be seen as an opportunity to bring about an increased focus on sustainability. It is an opportunity to leverage on ASEAN initiative I mentioned to address this dual challenge of pandemic and plastic pollution, both a threat to our health. It is an opportunity to explore innovative ways to raise public awareness and promote behavioral change, to advance technological innovations, and to strengthen public-private partnership and strive for universal access to waste management, among others. I hope the webinar today will stimulate discussion on these important topics to pave the way forward for ASEAN. Our collective response to this mounting challenge would reflect very well the spirit of cohesive and responsive ASEAN, which was chosen by Vietnam as the theme of ASEAN Chair 2020. On this note, I wish to recognize the valuable commitment and effort of ASEAN member states through the ASEAN Working Group on Coastal and Marine Environment, the ASEAN Working Group on Chemical and Waste, and the ASEAN Working Group on Environmentally Sustainable Cities, in keeping this as a matter of priority both at national and regional level. I wish to also thank ASEAN Dialogue and Development Partner for the continuous support to ASEAN. I wish to especially thank Ambassador Morten Hoglund, who has been passionate on topics related to environment and in making this webinar possible under the ASEANO project. My appreciation also goes to the Norwegian Institute for Water Research, the Center for Southeast Asian Studies, and the Partnership in Environmental Management for the Seas of East Asia, who will play key roles in implementing the ASEANO project and the outcome of this webinar. I look forward to a successful webinars and fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Excellency. Now, I would like to invite our speakers. We have 3 speakers and 1 discussion. Can all the speakers and discussion open your video? I would like to introduce all of you. The first speaker is Dr. Supawatkan Atireklap from Department of Marine and Coastal Resources, Ministry of Nature Resources and Environment, Thailand, as ASEAN Working Group Coastal and Marine Environment Chair Representative. The second speaker, Dr. Torbjørn Larsen, Director of Research, Norwegian Institute of Water Research. And the third speaker will be Mr. Michikazu Kojima, Senior Economist from AREA. He's now in Japan. And then the discussion for webinar today, Dr. Fong Sok. He's Head of Environment Division, ASEAN Secretariat. All the speakers and discussion have 10 minutes to present. I would like to start with the first speakers. Please, Dr. Supawat Khan Ate Reklap, the time is yours.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Please.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Mr. Supawat Kantileklap. Today, on behalf of the chairman, representative for the Mr. Sopon Thongdi, is a Director General, Department of Marine and Coastal Resource, Ministry of Natural Resource and Environment of Thailand. So he would like to join, but it cannot because we're quite busy. So today I will representative for him. And today I will talking about some situation of the ASEAN Working Group on Coastal and Marine Environment Working Group on working on the marine plastic pollution in Asian region, and some information on evident concern with the plastic pollution in Thailand during the COVID-19 pandemic. Next, please. Yes, as we know well that some of study have been shown that 5 countries in ASEAN member state have to in the top 10 of the source of ocean plastic waste since 1910. With 80% is from land-based pollution. So in this case, if we can reduce the discharge of the plastic debit about 50% from 10 main river, so it will can be reduce the amount of the plastic debit about more than 30% in the ocean. Next, please. According to this, so ASEAN have to organize 3 meetings. So we can, after we can have 3 meetings from the ASEAN. Next, please. We can get the outcome. 2 outcome is one is a Bangkok Declaration on combating marine debit and in ASEAN regions. The ASEAN, and second is the ASEAN Framework of Action on Marine Debit. Consists of 4 frameworks. One is policy, support, and planning. Second, research, innovation, and capacity building. 3, public awareness, education, and outreach. Finally, is a private sector engagement. Next slide, please. So afterward, ASEAN have to organize several workshops in order to establish a regional action plan on marine debit in the ASEAN regions. We expect that there will be a draft version in this period. But next, please. But in that period, we will have a COVID-19 pandemic occurred during this period. So this may be able to affect the action plan or not, we're not sure, because this quite change several pattern of using of the plastic in our region too. Next slide, please. In this case, I would like to to divide the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on marine and coastal environment perspective in this region, particularly in Thailand. I took from this evidence from Thailand. So the negative effect, as the previous, we have to mention that it will increase amount of the plastic debris from the disposal single-use material. A lot of the single-use will have to introduce in this period, such as masks or some medical purpose to using and for protect the COVID virus. And also many packaging from the online shopping or even the food delivery. So they have a lot of the many plastic and only single use, and so they will increase the amount of the plastic debris. However, this one is also, we can see that the positive effect too. In this case also, in Thailand also we have one of our measurement to against the COVID-19. We have to lock down our city or our country, and also have to limit of people to take place in many places, such as in like Sandy Beach, Island, or Marine Park. So this one is get the good result for our natural resource, like marine life or many environmental. So I will show you in the next slide, please. For the negative effect, from our survey on the trap of the floating debris from land to sea through the river, at the 5 river mouth in the upper Gulf of Thailand, we found that the floating debris were decreasing from more than 2,000 in 2017 to 700 in 2019. Whereas in this year, in Bangkok, have to locate in the river mouth of Chao Phraya River. So we have get some data that is have to generate the small amount of waste or debris than in 2019 in the same period. Like in this data, we show that in April 2019 just only produced 2,000 tons per day of plastic. But in this year, we can produce plastic waste is about more than 3,000 tons per day. Next slide, please. And this also is the positive when we have a lockdown our city or our country. So we have to compare is a lockdown and unlock the sea life. Because I'm sorry, I did not mention that this one is a Thai language, so I'm sorry, I did not translate in English because I have no time to translate. But I will explain in this in detail. Because during that period, we have locked down our country in 2 months. We found that a lot of the natural resources is come to recover or have to show that it's a more evident that such as we have many endangered species like a dolphin, whale, or many shark. We have to come to a level and can see very close to the community. And also about the stand of many sea turtle even the dolphin also is decreasing, not so much. And also in our marine resources, it become to recover such as seagrass, coral reef, and also some dugong also. We found a lot of the dugong come too close to the beach and look for the food. And also one thing is more very evident is sandy beach also very clean because no people to activity allowed there. So it's very clean and we don't have a direct input our plastic to the sea. And finally, so we can get our good, our water quality is become more high or more good condition, both in the Andaman Sea and in the Gulf of Thailand. So this one is two effect. We found that in Thailand from our result to study, to observe and to survey in this period. Yeah, okay, next slide, please. Yeah, thank you much for your attention. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Torjon from Norway Institute of Water Research. Please, Dr. Torjon, the time is yours.
Thank you very much. Dear Deputy Secretary General, dear Ambassador, dear delegates, dear colleagues, thank you very much for attending this seminar on the very important topic. I will spend my 10 minutes on introducing the progress in the ASEANO project. I will mostly focus on a few examples of project results. I'm proud to be able to tell you that we have been able to have good project progress even during the pandemic. So I will mostly touch upon results we have developed in the project, not talking so much about the pandemic specific challenges, but focus on some of the long-term issues that are important both during the pandemic and in the future. Many of you have been introduced to the project on other occasions. It's an ASEAN-Norway cooperation project on local capacity building for reducing plastic pollution in the ASEAN region. So there's a strong focus on building capacity locally, and a few of the results I will show you will also illustrate the importance of this. The global goals, or the goals of the project are linked to the global goals that has already been mentioned by several of you, the UNEA meeting series, the Sustainable Development Goals, especially 14.1, and the Bangkok Declaration. The project has 4 main outcomes. One is reduction measures for key industry sectors. One is related to monitoring methods and capacity building. One is related to the impacts of plastic pollution and its measures. And one, the last pillar, very important, is education and dissemination. I will not go more into the elements under the different outcomes of the project here, but I will mention 2 important aspects. One is that we focus very much on the catchment. We focus on what is happening on land and how sources on land are contributing to plastic pollution, both in rivers, but also especially in the ocean. And I think during the pandemic, it has been even more clear for very many people that the sources on land, the plastic waste and plastic pollution generated on land, are very key to control the marine plastic litter problem. We do much of the work through local case studies in case study pilot sites. So far, we have started case studies in Indonesia, in Citarum River, and in Philippines, in Imus River. Next country on the plan is Vietnam, where exactly is to be decided, and to start the program in Vietnam has, of course, been delayed due to the pandemic, unfortunately. Then based on the experiences, we want to establish more pilot cases in more countries in cooperation with key institutions in the different countries. And to transfer the results and experiences across ASEAN is a key output, of course. A little bit about project progress in Indonesia and Philippines. We were lucky to have quite a lot of activities before the pandemic. So we had two very good, quite large stakeholder workshops in Bandung, Indonesia, and Cavite in the Philippines. In the Philippines, it was just before the countries started to close. This was very important for us and the project progress, because we had then made a lot of, we have established a lot of contacts during these field trips, so that we had a lot of material to work on together through video conferences during the pandemic. So that was a very, very fortunate situation for us. Then when the countries closed down and the pandemic really became bad, we managed to have very good work and collaboration on video meetings. I think this is something all of us have experienced, that for at least some types of cooperation, the video conference facilities are working much better than we thought before we were forced to try. So I will give you 3 examples of preliminary project results. As I said, they're all key capacity needs, knowledge needs for tackling the plastic pollution long term, but they're also key aspects for understanding the dynamics of plastic pollution during the pandemic. The first one is related to households' perception of plastic waste and willingness to change habits. Second point is development of common monitoring methods for plastic litter in rivers. And the third one is related to the importance of flood events for plastic pollution, which is particularly important in Asia. First, one slide with some preliminary results from a household survey we have conducted in a village in Bandung City. It's a fairly simple survey, but I think still the results are to some extent surprising. And it shows how important it is to work with everyone to increase the knowledge base in the population, and also to work on change of habits. So we saw here that 63% say they are willing to reduce plastic use in their daily life, given there is an incentive or a compensation of some kind. So jumping straight to policy and implementation here, to find good incentives is very important, of course. We see that just a bit more than half of the households surveyed said that they understand that plastic waste has an impact to the environment. I think this was a surprising low number. And I think something we were aware of is that there is that more than half of the households said they were unwilling to segregate the waste in the household. Quite important results. The second topic I want to talk about, and this has been discussed a lot, for instance, in the working group on coastal and marine environment, is the need for development of common monitoring methods. That goes for plastic in general, including the marine. It goes for microplastic, that has been discussed a lot. And it also goes for plastic litter in rivers. The international community has come much shorter in developing common methodology for monitoring of plastic litter in rivers. It's very important to find harmonized methods and to develop them for several reasons. Of course, we need that kind of information to calculate input into the ocean. We needed to identify sources and prioritize measures. Again, a direct link to the COVID-19 situation. Through river monitoring, we can find how sources has changed during the pandemic. For instance, related to the use of face masks or the increased use of takeaway food and online shopping. Third, to document effects of measures. And a fourth very important point, the methods need to be affordable and relatively simple so that they can be carried out many places by people that are not high-level experts on exactly one method of monitoring. We have done some testing and method development. Again, preliminary. These pictures, or the picture in the middle, that's our colleagues doing the simplest way of river monitoring by visual observation of plastic litter in a river in Chitarum. The second method is can be combined with the first and is related to physical interception. So that's collecting what flows in the river. Several methods are under development and are being tested. And the third method that we need to take into account that has to a larger extent been ignored in the international community so far is the river bank and riverbed dynamic, meaning that there is a lot of waste sitting buried in the riverbed and the riverbanks that will be remobilized in the future, for instance, during flood events. So I think to have more focus on this third point is extremely important as well. We have some preliminary estimates again from Citarum River upstream Bandung. We have sampled 5 different sites, and we see the 4 pies you see there show how the waste composition collected in the river at the different sites are very different. This corresponds directly to what kind of activities and what kind of population that live in the different parts of the catchment. We see that site 1, there's a very high part of the sachets, while at site 2, food packaging is more important, and so on. So this shows the different footprint from different activities in the catchment. We also see there is a clear correlation between the amount of plastic waste and the flood velocity. How big is the river? And that brings me to the third key point, and that is the importance of flood events. I think, again, this has not received the sufficient attention internationally in, for instance, developing both measures and methods for monitoring. We see that riverbanks can be stores of waste that can be from earlier release long time ago. In the picture in the middle here, we see the riverbank sediments, again in Citarum in Bandung, where you have a meter or several meter thick riverbank layer of combined waste and sediment. And this will be remobilized when flood comes. Then you have a situation on the picture in the right. That picture is from the Philippines, where you have very low base flow. People will throw waste on the riverbanks, and when the flood comes, it will be washed away further down, either to the ocean, or it will settle in the riverbank or riverbed further downstream. So flood events is likely to be extremely important for the plastic pollution transport. We know that for transport of sediments, and we we think that plastic, both microplastic and plastic litter, will behave in a similar fashion as sediments. For the sediments, we know that much more than 90% of the annual sediment transport in the river happens during less than 1% of the time of the year. That illustrates the need to find ways to measure and understand what happens during the high flow events. Unfortunately, monitoring during high flow events is very challenging. It can be dangerous, and typically in these situations, people are very busy with taking care of their belongings and other issues than to monitor and observe what's happening in the river. So here, development of methods are strongly needed, and this is one issue we will continue to work on. So that was the 3 issues I wanted to share with you on the preliminary project results. Again, I want to say thanks to the whole project team for being able to do so much good work during the pandemic. Of course, I'm very much looking forward to we can meet again in real life, but so far this has been working reasonably okay for us. So thank you very much for the attention and the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Torjon. Now, for the third speaker, I would like to invite Mr. Michikazu Kojima from AREA. Please, Kojima, the time is yours.
Thank you for your kind introduction. I'm very honored to make a presentation in this event. My presentation title is COVID-19 pandemic and the efforts of reducing plastic pollution. Some of the tendency of the plastic waste generation are already mentioned in some speakers. Use of the personal protection equipment made of plastics, such as face masks, are increased, and also use of plastic container for food delivery were increased. But waste generated in offices, restaurants, and factories are decreased, and the waste generated in tourist area were also decreased, and the waste generated in residential area were increased. So that was a kind of general kind of the tendency on waste generation in the region. Not only the region, in the worldwide, I think. And some initiative to reduce single-use plastics are stopped to reduce the risk of the infection. Some coffee shops stopped providing drinks to personal cups. And also some cities and the states in US, such as California and Massachusetts, lift ban on plastic bag. Due to low prices and lower operation rate of low oil prices and lower operation rate of industries using plastics, some plastic recyclers stopped operation. And it may be difficult to reduce use of some plastics such as personal protection equipment and packages of food delivery services. And also there are some risk in recycling and waste management process. So we should take care of such kind of risk. Scientists found that half of the COVID-19 on plastics was gone after about 7 hours. So to prevent infection from plastic waste, which may be contaminated with COVID-19, such as used PPEs, should be disposed with securely tied garbage bag. Waste collection workers should use PPEs such as masks and gloves. It may be better for recyclers to keep collected plastic waste for a few days before processing. In some Southeast Asian countries, waste collection services are not well provided in urban squatter settlements of megacity, and in middle or small cities and rural area in general. Open dumping site may be also one of the sources of leakage of plastics to the environment. So plastic waste and microplastics may be blown away by the wind or leaked by rain and ended up to the ocean. So expanding waste collection service contribute to reduce the risk of the infection of COVID-19 and also prevent leakage of plastics to the ocean. Proper disposal is also important to prevent leakage from dumping site. One of the point I want to stress is there are economies of scale in waste disposal facilities, such as sanitary landfill and waste to energy plant. To utilize economies of scale in waste disposal facilities, regional waste management scheme or intermunicipal cooperation in waste management should be considered. To prevent NIMBY problems, not in my backyard problems, waste disposal facility should be well managed, such as proper covering of waste in dumping site, or wastewater control, air pollution control. So such kind of the measures should be introduced. So there are some kind of the initiatives to promote regional waste management in India and some other Asian region. In Southeast Asian countries also, there are some good practices on regional waste management. For example, Malaysia, federal government took over responsibility of waste collection and disposal services from municipalities in Malay Peninsula. Federal government contracted 3 companies providing waste collection and disposal services in the peninsula. So it's like a kind of a national kind of initiative to make a regional waste management scheme. In Thailand, also try to introduce clustering policy on waste management. So that is a intermunicipal cooperation scheme which Thailand government want to establish. And in Indonesia, West Java province developed the waste to energy facility for serving Bandung city and surrounding municipalities. Some private companies also invest in landfill site or residue-derived fuel plants, RDF plants, to receive some waste from multiple municipalities. So such kind of the efforts to improve waste management, improve the collection area of waste and the proper disposal can reduce the plastic pollution. So I want to highlight 2 kind of the our outcomes. One is we issued a kind of the policy brief in July this year. So on the waste management in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. And also, we are going to publish a kind of regional waste management in ASEAN or Southeast Asian countries. We don't have a fixed kind of title of the publication, but we are now trying to make a publication. Probably in this year, we can publish this publication. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Kojima. Now I would like to invite Dr. Fong Sok as a discussion for today's webinar. Dr. Fong Sok, the time is yours. Dr. Fong, we cannot hear you. Sorry. Can you unmute?
From my...
Sorry, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, good. It's double. Hello, do you hear me from your side, everyone?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. Greeting from ASEAN Secretariat and Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, this is a great opportunity for us to have all the key speakers today from academic and practitioner involved quite intensively in the plastic and the waste management in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN region particularly. With this, I think I have a few things for observation, and then we go to a few questions for clarification. I think all of the presenter illustrate important change in terms of plastic waste in the region, and in terms of increase the number of plastic waste disposal and also leakages happen during the COVID-19. Even with the existing measure in place from some of the countries that far advanced, but the problem still significant with the COVID-19 situation. So my first question go to Thon John. It's just a very interesting presentation about the household perception of the plastic waste and willingness to change their habit. So when this survey was conducted, because this must be during the time of the starting time of the COVID-19, I take off my mask, maybe easy to articulate. Maybe happened during the beginning of the COVID situation, and the willingness maybe changed dramatically because of the shortage of the plastic being experienced by the community themselves. So just clarification from you, and then I will have later on the 3 questions to all the speakers, but one at a time. So the floor over to you, Thon John, because this is very important to know the differences from the business as usual and during the COVID situation. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you make a very good point, and what you indirectly suggest would be a very interesting follow-up that we easily could do. This was taken up just before the pandemic, or just before the closing down. So before people had the awareness of the pandemic, and before everyone started to, well, before the society changed because of the pandemic. So we could try to repeat this now or soon. And it's a matter of practicalities, of course, but then that would be, I agree, to be a very interesting study to see how the pandemic has contributed to the change in perception. Good point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thon John. The next question is go to all the speakers. From your observation, what is the situation of the plastic waste in the region till now? It means anything. I know some of you already highlight some change, but any specific remarkable observation during this COVID-19? For example, I note that some, plastic pollution, threat environmental sustainability, as you highlight, and COVID-19 has increased our reliance on plastic for safety and hygiene purposes. And also the change, the change composition of waste during the COVID-19 present considerably as a new challenge. And also medical waste are dramatically increasing due to the COVID-19 outbreak. So, that's sort of my observation with your presentation. So, but I would like to know, and this may be a good opportunity to share with the participant and the audience, what are the situation of the plastic waste in the region right now in terms of movement, in terms of leakages, in terms of, one way we can know somehow about the volume, but about the distribution of the plastic waste, the movement, where it is right now, and how to monitor the situation. The floor over to you. Who want to take the floor first? The floor first among your 3 speakers. Who? Dr. Supawat, you want to share because any specific, you highlight already the impact, but during this situation, is there any specific impact you may have noticed or your team have noticed in terms of increasing the danger of wildlife, the sea turtle or something like that, that you highlight? Anything that remarkable from this period?
Sorry, Dr. Supawat, you have to unmute. Dr. Supawat.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hong Seok. Yeah, in this case, for our team, yeah, we found that is also in Thailand. Also, we have our team to study on the transboundary movement of some plastic debris in our area, because our team also find some the plastic waste from our another country, also part to our country. So we now is ongoing. So but still in this period also we found, but it's not so much in the same as before the COVID-19 occurred. But in this case, why I highlight that is our many sea life is become recover, and we can find a lot of, because we have to lock down our country, so we not permission to go to many places with the same in the national park or marine park. So when no people allowed there, so many our marine life also come back to our situation. And also I did not mention that also this year is very specific, because many sea turtle come to lay of eggs. Many, we found that it's much more than before 5 or some kind of the sea turtle also we never seen before 5 or 6 years ago. But last year and this particular this year is come a lot of the sea turtle to lay the eggs in our many coastal area. But for another highlight, I did not at the moment I did not have more. Yes, thank you, man.
Thank you very much, Dr. Supawat, for your insight on this matter. So, I mean, that is the plastic, it's still only centralized at the urban area in this case, or near the hospital facility and so on, may not be reached out to the environment per se. Yet if we have find way to control the pollution of the plastic leakages on time. So anyway, it's good to hear from that. So Ton John, do you have any sort of observation during your survey as well as from your personal on the situation of plastic waste in ASEAN region? Any significant observation from your view? The floor over to you.
There's one issue I would like to highlight, but I think some of the lack of response to your question is that we don't really have the monitoring programs in place that actually will do the measurements to generate the data that would have answered your question properly. If there would have been a regular monitoring program, we would have data that could be used to answer your question in some detail. This is unfortunately lacking, and I think it highlights again what many of us have discussed for a long time: the need for harmonized methods. But the point I would like to make, and I don't have any data from the ground on this in the ASEAN region, but we do have some data from India, and this is how the pandemic has impacted the most vulnerable part of the population, for instance, the waste pickers. So this is very much linked to the whole plastic waste, the issue in whole both East and Southeast Asia, that in many places you have a large informal sector working by themselves in an informal economy, being a part of the whole waste handling, both problem and solution. And I think with the pandemic, they have to a big extent lost their possibility for income, with not being able to do what they usually do with the informal sector waste handling. So this is a I don't have any results to show you, but I'm sure this is an issue that is a challenge in several countries, and that would deserve some more attention. Also post-pandemic, when finding again ways to deal with waste in general.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thonjo, for your contribution. I think it's a limitation or disruption of the service of waste management collection. It's happened because of the Southeast Asia. Some countries still use informal sector to facilitate that sort of waste collection. And this is one of the most critical points as well to take note. And that is maybe the way we can discuss later on about how we could improve or respond to this situation. So I give the floor back to Kojima for your observation. What is the situation of plastic waste? A general observation, what you have in mind from your observation, not necessarily from the statistic per se, but from your exchange view or from your, I don't know, from different sort of article you may come across. The floor over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Regarding international trade of plastic waste, I haven't checked the recent kind of the data, but when I checked the trade data on March and April, basically the international trade of plastic waste dropped. Basically, volume is dropped. The reason is probably the oil price is becoming lower. So the demand of the plastics are not so huge from the production side. Even the single-use plastics may be increased, but in general, the plastic price dropped. So the recycling might not be viable in the lower price of plastics or oil price. So that was a situation in March, April. Yeah, after that, I haven't checked, but I think the situation is still continue. Yeah. So that is my observation on the international trade of plastic waste. And yeah, in general, the generation of plastic waste is already mentioned by you. I think generally, yeah, some of the generation of single-use plastics increased. So that is one of the issue, I think. And recycling industry is not so viable right now. So because of the lower price of the oil. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. It's a well noticed point because it's one of the most important from the market standpoint in production base. Thank you for the first question. The second question is about what or how could we improve to address the plastic waste in the region during this COVID and after COVID-19 from the speaker personal view, how it can be improved, how it can be addressed in this situation of COVID and post-COVID-19 with regard to the plastic pollution in our region. So the floor is open. So who want to take the floor first? It's Dr. Supabat, the floor over to you.
Okay, thank you. So in my opinion, I think that now it's very difficult to reduce the amount of the plastic because now belong to the pandemic of COVID. So anyway, we did not have any material to use instead of the many plastic to our in medical care. So in this case, I think it's should be considered about more than intensive to our waste management and how to can collect all the plastic occur during the using after use the end life of the plastic. We need to more concentrate or more intensive to collect all that or good manage. That is my opinion in this case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Supavat. Any other view from the panel? Please, Thonjon.
Yeah, I would like to add one thing. At least this is a hope, and also based on experiences globally from earlier pandemics. Pandemics may cause some important change in the society. It may cause a change in awareness, as we already discussed, but it may also help governments to prioritize building necessary infrastructure. Of course, we know that in Southeast Asia, the lack of waste management infrastructure is one important part of the plastic waste problem and the plastic pollution problem. If the waste handling is good, then it doesn't matter that much if the use of plastic increase, if it's actually treated properly as waste instead of ending up as pollution. So one can hope, I hope, that the pandemic has given a lot of awareness also among governments, so that investment in crucial infrastructure, including waste management, waste handling infrastructure, may be developed after the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Thonjon. Cosima, you have any?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, please.
Basically, I agree with both previous speakers. We should have a good waste management, and also we should invest in some infrastructure, including waste sanitary landfill site or waste to energy facility or some others. And I think one of the key strategies each government should consider is how to expand the waste collection services in middle and small cities and also rural area. So you should have a good strategy to expand waste collection service in these areas. And you should also consider the kind of inter-municipal cooperation or regional waste management. Because there are economies of scale in some good infrastructure of waste management. So you should think such kind of the strategy. That's my message. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, it's a really big challenge right now because of the manpower, the resource. Sorry. All right. Thank you. Now we have received another question from Cambodia. Do you have any experience on illegal trade of plastic waste movement in the region, and how to prevent this such as illegal trade in the future? What kind of awareness program that more effective to reduce the single plastic use? So it's to the speaker. If anyone want to share your experience from the illegal trade. Cosima, you have some view on this? You deal a lot with trade, so I believe that you may have some point.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I know that several countries in Southeast Asia already how to say make a stricter enforcement of the import of plastic waste, like Thailand, Malaysia. They have some standard and so on. And maybe one of the how to say the information you can check is the Asian Network for Transboundary Movement of Hazardous Waste. Ministry of Environment Japan hosted such kind of a network, and the participating countries exchange their kind of the practices, how to improve the control of the import of plastic waste. So you can check such website. Maybe I can provide some information about the website.
Thank you very much. Anyone from the speaker want to share about the illegal trade of the plastic waste movement in the region? Or any kind of awareness raising that can stop or can reduce this illegal as well as single-use plastic? Because this consists of 3 questions that in one go, but anyone want to pick up something about awareness raising, about the stop or prevent the illegal trade in the future? I think it's good. I mean, from Cosima shared the link, the network that hosted by the Japanese government. So this is one of the main reference sources for the participant to consult, to look at that, what are the important measures that may be learned or lesson can be captured from that network hosted by the Japanese government. So we can share that later on through CSEAS. What would be, now he posts on the chat box, so you can access from that. That's a great source of information. So any more questions from the audience? But I mean, if none, I just go to my last question. Before I come into facilitate this discussion, I come across a few articles. They says about the effort or the action that the stakeholder need to be considered, a number of approach, and I would like the expert panel to provide the view after I reading this. Maybe you can share what would be applicable, considerable for our region. For example, the concern, I just extract from different articles, a few articles before I come in here. The concern as agency should expedite their preparation, responsive measure, safe practice for waste collection management with participation of citizens. That is one of the general statement. Second, ensure safe waste management practice should be part of emergency response service during the COVID-19 crisis. So ensure safe waste management practice, because this to protect the labor worker as well, as a part of emergency response service during the COVID. The third, adopt the sustainable, systematic, hierarchic plastic management roadmap as disaster resilient as a design. So we have plan in place for the waste collection and management in respective country of ASEAN member state. But this is the way the scholar suggests from different context, different country, to adopt the sustainable, systematic, hierarchical plastic management roadmap, consider disaster resilient as a design. The 4th point, which is interesting, learning from China, from Wuhan. The experience and lesson from Wuhan, I can read here. They say that the development of a comprehensive disposal mode, which include the combination of central disposal and on-site emergency disposal of medical waste. Second, change the medical waste disposal technology from decentralized to centralization, from irregular to regular management, and from the mostly incineration to non-incineration. So this try to diversify the way how to treat the plastic waste. Third, from Wuhan experience, the treatment facility for medical waste should be more automated based on technology and so on. So just brainstorm, and there's 4 points so far. I just quick grab that and just share with the speaker and to get your more thought on what would be could be the way forward for us to consider in our region. So the floor open. You have additional thought on that. I mean, you shared previously, but this one I just extract some of the key article that recently published, and they come up from different sort of region, different country, but it's also interesting to learn, and also would like to hear the view from the speaker. The floor back to the speaker, please.
Okay, I can start reflecting a bit, at least, around your good comments and questions. One relates to the public participation. I think that links to the results that I showed from the village outside Bandung, and saying that people are at the moment, a considerably large part of the population is not willing to segregate their waste, for instance, meaning that their participation is at the moment low. Then we already discussed a bit if that has already changed because of the pandemic. We can hope for this. Then it was a question in the chat directly to me that I had to check with my Indonesian colleagues why the people were unwilling to segregate their waste. And one important reason is this is very much linked to one of your last points, Pungsok, related to the waste management and also the issue of central and or local waste handling. And this is that people seem to believe that it doesn't matter if they segregate the waste, because the waste will be mixed again afterwards. So people's perception is that it's no point doing this because the waste handling and management is not in place to actually deal with it. This is then again a matter of infrastructure, a matter of informing about what is actually happening, and in that way having increased public participation. So capacity building, information, more infrastructure, and engaging the population. So of course it's a complex mix of different aspects, but I think the issues I mentioned now is at least one set of measures that may contribute. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tonjo, for your important point. Cosima, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Regarding the willingness to segregate the waste, I think the willingness to segregate depends on the kind of a situation. There are kind of the waste collection services which separately collect recyclables or not, or there are waste bank or bank sampa which collecting which buy the recyclable plastic waste. So depending on the situation, I think willingness to separate may be different. So I think it is very important to understand the circumstances of the waste generator. They have options or not. So that is very important, I think. So yeah, that is my comment to previous speakers. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Dr. Supawat, you want to add something? Okay, that.
No, sorry, thank you. I don't have more.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Supawat. I read the Cambodia question, how we can do from medical waste incineration to non-incineration, which are the safe way to manage the medical waste without incineration. So frankly speaking, I'm not expert in that. I'm just read the article, but I can read some of the things that I can point out from what this article mentioned. The incineration to non-incineration disposal technologies such as autoclave, steam, dry heat, chemical disinfection, or microwave. That's the way they explain. So maybe the speaker can help me because I'm just grab the article along the way and share with the meeting. So if you have any specific from incineration to non-incineration disposal technology, it would help the participant as well. But I mean, this one, I just try to highlight the diversify of the approach in order to address the voluminous of the plastic waste happened during the COVID-19. So any sort of example on non-incineration, maybe share with the audience. So the floor to the speaker, if you have any.
No idea.
Hi. I think Bosok-san already mentioned about the alternative technologies. And I mean, small incineration plant may generate pollution if they don't have a good enough pollution control equipment. So it may not good. And some small incinerator were already prohibited in some countries like Indonesia. So yeah, you should find a good technology anyway for treating the medical and critical waste.
Thank you. So we still have a few minutes. So let me ask the speaker to check the final, what would be the best way forward for us. So what I understood from the speaker, it means that the concerned stakeholder need to do more in terms of the effort, in terms of investment, in terms of promote participation of the different stakeholders in the process of waste collection and management during this COVID-19 situation. Okay, so any additional point that you want to also include? For example, one of the things I grabbed my attention about large capacity of mobility of mobile facility. Would it be help during this situation for, because for example, Thorn John just mentioned about the informal sector also disruption during this time. So would it be the mobility, the mobile facility could help in this regard, because some of the cities, some of the town have sort of mobile facility. Would it be important for the government to expand this mobile facility for manage this waste, plastic waste leakages? So the last point, okay, go ahead. Dr. Supawat, you want to have floor?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure that is a mobile facility is what is your meaning?
Clarification. I mean, I just get this from the different article, but I mean, mobile facility here, just kind of, if I understood correctly, it's about the collection that go door to door, collect all this sort of plastic waste from the facility that, or from the station. That's what I believe. And to increase the efficiency of the collection of the waste during this peak season of the plastic in relation to COVID-19. So that might understand from what that contact mentioned.
Yes. Okay. In my opinion, in Thailand also we have such a more informal sector also to collect our waste from the household. But in this sector also almost concerning to collect the value garbage or debris from the household. This and also they have a lot of this informal sector, this part. But I think it's better if our local government, like a province or some district, they have to can collect directly, because if they cannot to directly collect the management of the garbage, so it's quite how say, they cannot manage well, because they will left, because in formal sector we don't know that they will separate and value to illegal dumping somewhere. So this is my the problem for this in this case. Yeah, I just would like to mention this point.
Thank you so much for your important point. I mean, it's not only increase that mobile facility, but in terms of manage it properly. Thank you so much. Any additional point before I close my facilitation for this session?
Mention one point related to the mobile facilities. It can be a useful addition in a holistic waste management system, but it depends on, again, the behavior in the households, the willingness to segregate. It depends on having somewhere to deal with the collected waste properly and so on. So it can only be a small part of a bigger system that involves everything from the big infrastructure to the individual participation. So it is a complex problem, and we need to find holistic, integrated solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thonjon, for your input. And I end my point, and thank you so much to all the speakers. And we give a big hand to our speaker. I mean, even from the distance, but this is the situation we are now. And thank you all for your contribution. So I give floor back to Dr. Risman CSEAS to continue this Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Fong. It's very interesting discussion. Actually, the question not only coming from the Zoom, we only live streaming in YouTube. I would like to pick some question from the YouTube. The first question for Thonjon, from Dr. Thonjon. There's a question. I can read the question. I have noticed that at least 3 kinds of plastic, macro, micro, and nanoplastic. What are the difference? Are they applicable to the same quantify method? Because this project, one of the key point is about monitoring methods. And then for Kojima, there's a question from the YouTube as well. The question is, I think from, oh yeah, this one is plastic waste can be proceed to produce RDF? Maybe you can share your experience in Japan. Maybe we can start with these 2 questions. Maybe Thonjon can answer first and follow up by Kojima, please.
Okay, so I understand the question. So as what is the difference between the macroplastic, the micro, and the nanoplastic? And the answer to that is that it's the size of the plastic particles. Okay. The nanoplastic is very, very tiny particles where there is very little knowledge on what is actually the impact. it is speculated that it may enter the cells and so on, but it's very little research on the impact of this. Regarding monitoring methods for nanoplastic, it's also very, very complex and very difficult. The microplastic in much researched, it has been found, say, almost everywhere in all kind of biological species and all kind of environments. To what extent it is toxic or problematic for different organisms is still not very clear for most research. And then the microplastic is basically just plastic waste of all kinds that ends up in the environment. So that's the bigger pieces, the pieces you can see with your eye. And that is the waste, for instance, you read about in the media that is observed inside the body of different marine animals, for instance. Hopefully that answered in a simple way a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Kojima, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. One of the main component of the RDF is coming from plastic waste. So the plastic waste is a part of the RDF. And I think in Thailand, there is a kind of one companies, they collect the plastic waste and some other waste from the household, and they make a RDF, and they have also a power plant to utilize RDF, generate power. So yeah, there are some kind of the plants already exist in Southeast Asian countries.
Yeah, thank you, Kojima. Now from the Zoom chat, we have also two questions. One from RC3S, from Pak Heru, Regional Center for Cleansea. The use of degradable plastic is now being developed and introduced in Indonesia. I would like to have your perspective based on experience in the usage of degradable plastic in your country. This one goes to Norway and Japan, Torjon and Kojima. The second question from the Philippine Environmental Management Bureau. The question is, the case study presented in monitoring plastic pollution were done on pilot catchment or river. Are there any current plastic pollution studies or monitoring in ASEAN conducted in marine environment? It will be good if considered coastal area for the next pilot area in the study monitoring. Maybe Dr. Supawat also can give a comment on this, because I believe Thailand also doing so many initiatives related to the coastal area, especially like in Phuket and other beach area. Maybe we can start with Torjon first for from the question from the RC3S. Please, Torjon.
Thank you. The question is about degradable plastic. Yes, there are a lot of initiatives around the world to develop degradable plastic. So far, many people tend to be a bit, or many scientists at least, tend to be a bit skeptical, because there are many types of degradable material, and a concern is we don't know what it degrades into. For instance, one concern is that a plastic bag made of so-called degradable plastic may degrade into microplastic, and by that maybe being a bigger problem than the plastic bag in itself. But there is a lot of research going on, and I'm sure there will be properly degradable material. I don't know if plastic is the word we should use, but degradable products in development. But I think we should be very skeptical to those naming their product degradable, because it may not be properly degradable in the conditions in nature.
Okay, Kojima, please.
Yes, I think some delegates from Malaysia may follow up my answer. I think Malaysian roadmap for single-use plastics mentioned about the exclude the photo and also biodegradable plastics from eco-labeling scheme in Malaysia. So I think photo and oxo biodegradable is not good for environment. That is a kind of the understanding right now. And also the biodegradable plastics how say are degraded in certain condition. So it's not always degraded in any environment. So there are some kind of the standards for the biodegradable in the ocean or biodegradable on land soils and so on. So there are some kind of the or compostable plastics is different kind of standards. So you should understand such kind of differences. That is a comment on the degradable plastics.
Yeah. Thank you, Kojima. Dr. Supawat, maybe because this ASEANO project focus on river monitoring, but looks like from the Philippines asked about is it possible to do the pilot area like in the coastal area? Maybe Thailand to have something in your views, please. You have a views on this?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So in this case, in Thailand also now we have our pilot study in along our coastal area because we have to install our boom to collect floating garbage from the river to the sea. Totally, we have now more than about 50 locations along our coastal to collect from the river or the main canal with the will put in the sea. But in this case also we have another study also we have to join with our private sector to design our track for get the debit both during the high tide or low tide can collect two-way, not or collect only one way. But in this case, so we cannot to identify which one is input from the river. But for the boom, we can estimate that this one is from the river to the sea. So we can estimate our amount of the garbage to the sea. But we have some problem with our boom because they can collect all waste, including the degradable waste like a plant or many another thing together. So sometimes it's blocking our boom. So we cannot collect all, but we cannot get the selective garbage. This one also is our problem. But this one will still ongoing in Thailand. And also we have to collect every day to collect and also another thing also because after we can collect our garbage, but we need to to work with the local government to manage after we collect our garbage because they need to bring this one to separate or bring to dumping or bring to the management after that. But before we send to this stakeholder, we have to identify the type of the garbage or by ICC. So this one also is one of our international standard to classify of garbage like a plastic or some kind of the straw or spoon or box or single-use plastic bag, something like that. That's all our study. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Supawat. Yeah, it's another question from the YouTube from BPPT from Indonesia. Which technology can be effective to reduce marine plastic pollution, especially microplastic, not macro, but microplastic? This is the question goes to all the speakers. Maybe maybe Tojon, followed by Kojima and Dr. Supawat, please. It's very hard question. Please.
Well,
technology?
it's. I think. Well, thank you for the question. I think it is not a technology, as in a technical installation, that is the solution to reduce marine microplastics pollution. Also, not macroplastic. The solution is to stop the sources, and then we need to understand everything we have been discussing in this seminar. Where does the waste come from? Why does people behave as they do, leading to waste becoming pollution and so on. For microplastic, there is definitely no chance to filter water or get rid of the microplastic that is already there. So it needs to be stopped at the source. That's my key point. So I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Kojima, you want to respond? On
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, so microplastics is generated from macroplastics also, but we should also focus some sources of microplastics, such as wastewater from landfill site, wastewater from washing clothes, and also the artificial turf, artificial glass. So that might be also the source of the microplastics. So, and also the resin pellet. So I mean a plastic pellet used leaked from the factories or transportation of the resin pellet, plastic pellet. So we should also reduce such kind of the sources, which is not regarded as a waste. So we should control the leakage from other sources of the microplastics. So that is my comment.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Supawat, you have any comment?
Yes. Okay, so I agree with Dr. Thorjon that because the microplastic is quite very difficult to manage, or even the macroplastic also. We need to manage, or we need to make it more at the original source, original place before they go to the sea. But also I would like to mention input more another before question about the microplastic. Also is not so really toxic to the animal, but they can causing to the some sickness or illness of the sea of the marine mammal or even the sea life. Because in our study in Thailand also we found many stand of sea turtle, dolphin. Is we can get many of microplastic in the stomach, even in the digest line of the, and it cause get the weakness to the animal. After that they will die soon, but it's not directly toxic to the animal, but they cause become a sickness or illness. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Supawat. I hear that technology, also policy, but we don't hear about how the role of industry. Could you all the speakers share their views on how the industry playing role reducing plastic pollution? Maybe we can start with Thorjon, follow up by Kojima and Dr. Supawat. You can share your views, or maybe what have you done? I mean, your country like Thailand or Norway or Japan. Please, you can share.
It's a very big question. It can be a lot of different things. Of course, to find ways to involve industry to acknowledge the problem and help finding solution is absolutely key. That one possibility would be to have incentives for industries who do something right. There are so many different sectors, so I need to be a bit general. I believe in positive incentives for those who do say good measures. I think that is better. It motivates the competitive attitude of many industries if you have incentives. So finding incentives, I think I would say is a good way. That is better than punishment in most cases. And then I think another thing we could have discussed, and I know there are separate webinars only on the topic, is of course the corporate social responsibility and the extended producer responsibilities that I think are also important tools in certain sectors. And I think we see that the big companies, they are now having a quite aggressive policy on promoting their own packaging, for instance, being better than the competitors. So they are trying to use this situation and people's awareness to find ways to win the competition also on this aspect. Thank you also for that.
Yeah, thank you. Kojima, please.
Yeah, there are so many roles of the industries to prevent plastic pollution, such as the industry can develop the alternative materials. Also, they should prevent the leakage from the production process about the plastics like a resin pellet, and also design for recycling or investment in recycling process and so on. Yeah, there are so many kind of the the roles which industry should take. Yeah, thank you.
Dr. What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in this case, I don't have any comment, but I think it's in this part it should be come from themselves for the industrial. But for in Thailand also we have consider about some like circular economy, which they initiated by many private sector or industrial in Thailand also. They start to concern about this one also, because they have to involve in this acting to the protect our environmental. But in Thailand, I'm not sure that we have direct the law to concern with this plastic waste. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Supawat. Yeah, because like in Indonesia now, I think last year, Indonesia just launched EPR roadmap, extended producer responsibility for 3 selected industry sectors: retail, food and beverage industry, as well as services industry like hotel and restaurant. Because these 3 industry also contribute to the plastic pollution, especially the use of single-use plastic. So the last one, I would like to have from all the speakers only 2 minutes views on what are the short and the long-term solution. I believe there's no comprehensive solution, but let's start with Torjon and then Kojima and then Dr. Supawat, please. What in your mind, what is the solution? It's only about the monitoring, it's about how to reduce from the industry sector. It's very complicated because, you know, the lack of waste management also is one of the issue in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN countries. Yeah, please. Yes,
so the question you ask is of course impossible to answer in 2 minutes. It would be impossible to answer in a very long time also, but let me just highlight a few of the points I have tried to make during the seminar, and it spans the whole spectrum of all players in the field. It spans from involving the informal sector. They have a lot of expertise. To investment in big infrastructure, talking billions of dollars in infrastructure. People's involvement, perception, behavior, understanding why people do as they do, use that as information to develop regulations, policies. Similarly, involve industries, as we talked about just now, understand what can motivate industry to take part in changing the direction. Let me stop with those few key points. Thank you.
Yeah, please, Kojima.
Yes, I don't have any specific long-term solution. I think we should find a long-term solution in the future. To do that, we need various scientific knowledge. I mean, there are so many related, I'll say, the science field related to marine plastic issues. And not only the natural sciences or engineering, we should know the kind of a social science side knowledge also. So, and also there are so many ministries should involve in to find the good solutions. Not only Ministry of Environment, but also Ministry of Industry, ministry in charge of the how to say the public infrastructure, ministry in charge of fisheries, agriculture. So many ministries should involved to find a good long-term solution. So we need a kind of a multi-stakeholder kind of the contribution to find a long-term solution. Yeah, that is my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kojima. Please, Dr. Supawat.
Yes. Okay. So, from my opinion, for long term, I think is I only one opinion is should we have change our behavior or change in our mind map for our people or the user of the plastic to understand how to hold, how to manage. That is all. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Supawat. I would like to invite Dr. Fong. Please, Dr. Fong. You still unmute, Dr. Fong, please. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Arisma. And thank you to the speaker. I mean, it's a very good insight and experience that you brought to the audience today. One other small thing I just kind of forgot, but I mean, right now I bring it back a little bit about the method that ASEANO project doing for monitoring plastic litter in the river or catchment. Would it be on time to make use or replicate this tool to support the plastic waste management and leakages during this COVID situation? That's my first question. If so, how it can be ready for other people to make use of this tool? Because some of the tool, it like visual sort of thing, it's quite simple, easy to detect. And the second question go to Kojima about area regional knowledge center for marine plastic debris. Would it be possible the knowledge center it more discuss or share about the different sort of approach and different way of how to deal with the situation of plastic waste during this COVID-19? This may be important reference that people can access and learn more. So it's not only stop our webinar today and people don't have any reference material or information. So if possible, I think area could extend this on the plastic waste management measure or approach or best practice in different places to share with the audience also on your platform. Thank you, Pak
Yeah.
Arisman.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Fong. Yeah, please, Tojon, you can comment on how the ASEANO project will go through during COVID-19 and how to transfer the methods. And then
Yeah.
for Bima, how the area knowledge center can also become a platform of sharing for the COVID-19. Yeah, please, maybe Tojon first.
Yes, I think most relevant here is that we are finalizing a review and recommendation document of different methods for monitoring as a contribution to the big request for a harmonized monitoring methodology. So this will come out fairly soon, and at least it will give guidance to different governments, monitoring organizations at local and national level in the different countries to include monitoring of riverine plastic waste, plastic pollution in their monitoring programs. So I think that's the most specific that we can contribute right now. As I said, there is a need for further improving the methods, but this is challenging in the current situation to be out in the field and actually make improvements to methods. So I think our most useful contribution in the shorter term would be this review and guidance document coming soon. Thank you.
Yeah, please, Kojima.
Thank you very much, Ponsok-san, for your constructive comment. We are willing to enrich our our website and to share the kind of the various good practices in the region. Yeah, so we are trying to make a best try to share the knowledge with ASEAN member states through the website and some other event. Thank you very much for your comment.
Okay, thank you, Kojima. Dr. Supawat, you have any comment? No. Okay. Okay. Now we are coming to the closing. I don't want to make a closing statement, but I just want to have a several notes, like mentioned by all the speakers, the important multi-stakeholders approach to solve this problem, plastic pollution. And then the second, by Dr. Supawat, I also agree that behavioral change in ASEAN should become one of the important variable or factors. And I just want to remind all of us that many initiatives or projects in ASEAN related to the plastic pollution, it will be good if all the projects can have a coordination, and this is good also for ASEAN member states because the other project can become a support for other projects. So I noticed there's a World Bank, there's a JICA, ASEANO. So this all can be sit together. Maybe ASEAN Secretariat can facilitate the discussion, and this will be good. Again, I mentioned for all the ASEAN member states, and this is not only the pilot in Philippines and Indonesia will be transferred to other ASEAN countries. Of course, the challenge is the COVID-19. Hopefully next year we are already in the new normal, but we hope we can do face-to-face doing activities. Again, I would like to close this webinar without conclusion, and then we will have a summary and we'll send all to the working group through ASEAN Secretariat later. And thank you again for all the speakers, especially for ASEAN Secretariat for co-host this event, as well as for all the working group, ASEAN Coastal of Marine Environment, Coastal and Marine Environment, Environmental Sustainable Cities, as well as chemical waste. So again, thank you so much. See you in our next webinar. Hope you safe and healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Fong.
Yeah.